attention. He found it hard to trust his perceptions and to yield to thought. What had just transpired, what had just arrested his focus was now a thing of the past, lending to him a sense of incredulity. Reality was characterized by a newly fashioned and as yet unknown element to which he could not gain access. He passed a nervous hand over his brow. His subjectivity was further troubled. He felt invisible. He was reduced to being a monad, divested of body and matter. He looked up, his gaze falling upon the windowed facade of the building adjacent to the church. Displayed upon the building was a virtual advertisement for the newest cinematic production. There was an image of a distended assault rifle. A serpent was coiled around the rifle. Its scales were a sharp green. Its bifurcated tongue was exposed, touching the body of a voluptuous woman wearing a thin scarlet slip. Her expression was conflicted, intertwining uncontained sexuality and fear. Printed above these images were the following bold words: "Come thrill yourself." Victor turned away. Against the air of immensity generated by the sleepless city, he saw himself miniaturized, diminished, depersonalized. The passers-by were moving swiftly. They appeared self-possessed and characterized by psychological independence. What were they seeing? What amounted to their reality? Should their eyes settle upon Victor, how would they perceive him? Perhaps they would take note of his defeated posture, the disorientation imprinted upon his face. Perhaps they would find him offensive, detecting some concealed strife, in the depths of which was his ongoing abode, coloring the world in opaque hues. But the swiftly flowing cataract of pedestrians saw him not. Turning to observe the progression of city dwellers, Victor saw a strange segmented creature. He saw the movements of limbs and bobbing of heads. Each person represented a separate chamber of thought and perception. Once more the incessant motion coalesced around the rush of noise. The symphony of cacophony in the likeness of a composition absent of prolonged rests and harmonious caesuras. Victor saw the conductor of this magnum opus as some strange, obscure force, some conglomerate of man and machine, wielding a baton above the fray, gesticulating wildly from a floating rostrum. To get some relief from the noise, Victor decided to enter the church. He approached the wooden door, opened it, and passed over the threshold. Once the door creaked closed, he found himself in a circular vestibule. A lone candle burned in a nearby fixture. The immediate diminution of sound made him feel like he had entered another universe. He took several more steps and passed through another set of doors. Now standing in the cavernous nave, he saw several rows of brown hues haphazardly arranged. The air was infused with an odor Victor could not recognize. The nave's acoustics were deadened, enough so to welcome a feeling of contemplation. Victor felt reverberations of mystery echoing soundlessly in the nave's shadowy spaces. He thought of the sacred and the profane and how they seemed pinned against each other in a state of continuous contention. Victor proceeded up the aisle. He approached what appeared to be the altar. The wood out of which it was fashioned was dust besmeared and chipped. The chalice standing thereon emitted a worn golden sheen. Beside the chalice was a plate equally dulled by time. There was an imposing candelabrum, the 3 candles of which were lit, flickering and contending with an abundance of shadow. Suspended above the altar was a sculpture of the august spiritualists around whom the world of the church revolved. He was the pariah prophet, the hallowed mouthpiece. He arose like a righteous tempest, broadening the light to quell the raging concussions of iniquity. He delivered to the pagans and polytheists all manner of enigmatic parable. He birthed the sublime and the transcendent. Victor observed the representation of this person, it seemingly levitating above the altar, its arms extended, its face appearing to be featureless in dim light. Victor's thoughts began to waver. His gaze directed at the sculpture deepened. The dingy surroundings lost their definition. The apertures of darkness diminished. The dense pockets of shadows receded. The candles of the candelabrum began to proffer more light. The face of the sculpture lost its inanimateness, becoming imbued with luminous features, the more prominent of which were the eyes. They bespoke some divine secret untold. Victor desired to turn away from these eyes, but was unable to do so. He was fixed in the realm of sublimity, a place at once beautiful and terrible, a place where words of description were rendered inadequate. Then, as if propelled into movement by a force external to him, Victor felt his head incline. His eyes settled upon the vaulted ceiling. He detected images in movement. There were radiant angels hovering around the mysterious symbols. There were beings of otherness, so intricate in detail, so otherworldly as to appear ineffable to Victor, as he felt his pain subjectivity wane, supplanted by a deep fascination. Time lost its contours, its definitive shape. The images on the ceiling coalesced into a single glowing orb. Victor, lost in some timeless place bridging external reality with consciousness, saw this orb. He took it to signify a power source from which all things acquired their substance, function, and life. Yet he was assailed by doubt. He turned away from the ceiling overwhelmed. He felt located at the center of a reaction combining certainty with disbelief, vision with hallucination. He directed his attention to the interior of his mind. He saw the space in which thought grew. The window that was his mind's eye was clear and unobstructed. A word appeared in this window, pulsating and luminous with dark light. Machine. Before he could grasp what he was seeing, the world dissolved.